Laudetur Jesus Christus, praise be Jesus Christ, and welcome to Vatican Radio's special weekday live-streamed broadcast of the Angelus for the solemnity of Saints Peter and Paul. For those of you who are regular listeners, you'll know that normally the Angelus, or Regina Coeli as appropriate, are celebrated by Pope Francis each Sunday at noon. And if you're new to Vatican Radio, we invite you to join us each week for the Pope's Sunday Angelus. Today, a very important feast day, the solemnity of Saints Peter and Paul, a holy day of obligation in the Universal Church, although not in all places. And because the two apostles, Peter and Paul, are considered the co-founders of the church in Rome, this is, of course, one of the most sacred days of the church's liturgical year. In just a few moments, our Holy Father will be coming to the balcony of the Apostolic Palace, over the window of the Apostolic Palace, overlooking the square here in front of St. Peter's Basilica. To lead us in the recitation of the Marian prayer. The Holy Father earlier this morning celebrated Sacred Mass for the solemnity. The liturgy took place in St. Peter's Basilica, and during that liturgy, as is customary, the Holy Father blessed the pallia, the liturgical vestment that hangs over the shoulders of metropolitan archbishops and is an indication of their authority as archbishop, but most importantly of their close ties of communion and fellowship and obedience to the successor of Saint Peter. Also during that event, the Holy Father, Pope Francis, exchanged the sign of peace with the representative of the Ecumenical Patriarch of Constantinople. The Church of Constantinople customarily sends over a delegation for the patronal feast of the Church of Rome, usually a high-ranking archbishop or other prelate of the Orthodox Church of Constantinople. And for its part, the Church of Rome sends a delegation representing the Pope to Constantinople, now Istanbul, for the feast of St. Andrew, the patronal feast of the See of Constantinople. And you can hear in the distance the crowd welcoming the Holy Father, who is approaching the window of the Apostolic Palace and with a smile and a wave greets the many pilgrims and visitors who are present in Rome this afternoon. Dear brothers and sisters, good day. And the Gospel for today, the solemnity of the Holy Apostles, Saints Peter and Paul. Jesus says to Simon, one of the 12, "You are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church." Peter is a name that has several meanings. It can mean a rock, a stone, or simply a pebble. And in fact, if we look at St. Peter's life, we discover a bit of all three of these aspects in his name. Peter is a rock. There are many times when he is strong and steady, genuine and generous. He leaves everything to follow Jesus. He recognizes Christ, the Son of the living God. He dives into the sea to go quickly toward the risen one. Then he boldly and courageously proclaims Jesus in the temple, before and after the Lord was arrested and flogged. Tradition tells us also about his steadfastness when facing martyrdom, which happened right here in Rome. He is a rock. Peter, however, is also stone, a rock but also stone, able to offer support to others. A stone that founded on Christ acts as a support to the brothers and sisters for the building up of the church. We discover this too in his life. He responds to Jesus' call together with Andrew, his brother, James, and John. He confirms the apostles' desire to follow the Lord. He cares for those who suffer. He promotes and encourages the communal proclamation of the gospel. He is a stone, a reliable point of reference for the entire community. Peter, a rock, and Peter also a stone. Peter's even simply a pebble. His littleness emerges often. At times he does not understand what Jesus is doing. When confronted with Jesus' arrest, Peter allows fear to overtake him, and he denies Jesus, then repents and weeps bitterly, but he does not find the courage to stand under the cross. He locks himself in with the others in the upper room, out of the fear of being captured. In Antioch, he is embarrassed to be with converted pagans, and Paul calls him out on this, and asks him to be consistent regarding this. In the end, according to the Quo Vadis tradition, he tries to flee when faced with martyrdom, but meets Jesus on the road and regains the courage to turn back. All of this is in Peter: the strength of the rock, the reliability of the stone, and the littleness of a simple pebble. He's not a superman. He's a man like us, like each one of us, who says yes generously to Jesus in his imperfection. But it's exactly in this way that, just as in Paul and in all the saints, it appears that it is God who makes Peter strong with his grace. It becomes evident that it is God who makes Peter strong with his grace, unites us with his love, and forgives us with his mercy. It's with this true humanity that the Spirit forms the church. Peter and Paul were real people, and today, more than ever, we need real people. So let's take a look inside ourselves and ask ourselves some questions, starting from the rock, from the stone, and from the pebble. From the rock, is there ardor, zeal, passion for the Lord and for the gospel in us? Or is there something that easily crumbles? And then, are we stones? Not the kind that make people stumble, but the kind with which the church can be built. Do we work for unity? Are we interested in others, especially the weakest? Finally, thinking of the pebble, are we aware of our littleness? And above all, in our weakness, do we entrust ourselves to the Lord, who accomplishes great things through those who are humble and sincere? May Maria, the Queen of the Apostles, help us imitate the strength, the generosity, and the humility of Saints Peter and Paul. And now the Angelus.
Concepit Spiritus Sancto.
Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tui mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus.
Santa Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostre. Amen.
Ecce ancilla Domini.
Fiat mi secundum verbum tuum.
Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tui mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus.
Santa Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostre. Amen.
Verbum carum factum est.
Capitati in nobis.
Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tui mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus.
Santa Maria, Mater Dei, ora pro nobis peccatoribus, nunc et in hora mortis nostre. Amen.
Ora pro nobis, Santa Dei Genitrix.
Digni efficiamur promissionibus Christi.
Grazie a Tua, in questo Domine, mentibus nostris infunde, che angelo annunziante, Christi Fili Tui, incarnazione coniovim, per passione meius et crucem, a resurrezione gloriam perducamur, per undem Christum Dominum nostrum.
Amen.
Gloria Patri et Filio et Spiritui Sancto.
Sicut erat in principio et nunc et semper, et in saecula saeculorum. Amen.
Gloria Patri et Filio et Spiritui Sancto.
Sicut erat in principio et nunc et semper, et in saecula saeculorum. Amen.
Gloria Patri et Filio et Spiritui Sancto.
Sic ut erat in principio et nunc et semper, et in saecula saeculorum. Amen.
Pro fidelibus defunctis, requiem aeternam dona eis Domini.
Lux perpetua luceat eis.
Requiescant in pace.
Amen.
Sin nomen Domini benedictum.
Ex hoc nunc et usque in saeculum.
Aiutorium nostrum in nomine Domini.
Qui fecit caelum et terram.
Benedicat vos omnipotens Deus, Pater et Filius et Spiritus Sanctus. Amen.
And the Holy Father concludes the recitation of the Angelus with his apostolic blessing, which goes out not just to those present, but also to all those listening live to today's Angelus. And the Holy Father begins his reflection after the Angelus with a greeting to all the Romans on this feast of Saints Peter and Paul. Thanks for the place of Rome. And he speaks about the display of flowers which are displayed in the square and up the Via della Conciliazione leading from St. Peter's. And he asks for prayers for peace, especially for the people of Ukraine, who are in his heart every day. I renew my greetings to the delegation from the Ecumenical Patriarch of Constantinople who took part in today's feast. I send my embrace to the Archbishop, the Ecumenical Patriarch of Constantinople. And he sends his blessing to the archbishops who received the pallium this morning. And greetings from various people from around the world. And I wish all of you a happy feast. And please don't forget to pray for me. Enjoy your lunch, and we'll see you again soon. And the cries of Viva el Papa, long live the Pope. And the Pope obviously hear him and says, well done, good for you. And that brings us to the end of today's Angelus. Thanks one and all for joining us today. We do greet all of those listening in on the various partner stations, including EWTN TV, Catholic Faith Network, Salt and Light TV, Catholic TV, and Uganda Catholic Television, UC TV. Thanks to all of you, too, for joining us today. We invite you back this weekend for the Angelus on Sunday. And as we conclude, I'd also like to say a word of thanks to our producers and technicians in studio who do all the work to make this broadcast happen throughout the days and weeks of the year. And thanks finally to all of you for joining us. A happy feast of Saints Peter and Paul to one and all. And we conclude, as always, praise be Jesus Christ. Laudetur Jesus Christus.